Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to Webinar Wednesday. What's so much fun about Webinar Wednesday is this is an opportunity for me to share what I'm learning, what I'm trying, what I'm testing out. And our topic today, where we talk about finding balance and really finding ways to integrate AI into your business and do it in a way where it can actually help you as opposed to some of the fear tactics that exist around AI, where it's like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't do it, versus some of the other extremes where people are, letting AI write everything for them, write books that they just publish and all of that. I really want to kind of handle the perspective of how you can use AI with that business hat on. Yes, there's some fun applications of AI. Yes, there's even some things that AI can do that are fun to try and test, but they're not necessarily things you're going to do in your business. So, what I want to do today is kind of differentiate. I really want to make sure that as you're thinking about running your vegan business, as you're thinking about getting started, or maybe you've been in business for a while and you're trying to figure out how AI, can help you, I want to make sure today you walk away with, okay, I got two or three ways that I can use AI and it can truly help me move and run my business better, more productively, or just ease up the load as far as the work that you have to do in your business. All right. Now, as we go through today's session, some of these things are going to be new. Some of these tools are going to feel like, oh my goodness, I never even thought about it this way or that way. And that's good. It's a good thing if you have an aha moment. It's a good thing if you see AI in a new light. And that's what I'm really hoping I can shine on today's discussion. And then the big thing that I also want you to take away from today is that AI doesn't mean you have to do it all. Just because there's an AI software, just because someone else is using AI, just because you opened up maybe an app you've been using and all of a sudden it's like, we have AI. It doesn't mean that if you aren't jumping on every AI tool and every AI application that you're going to be left behind. That is truly not the case. What you're going to find is that AI is just like a tool like any other marketing tool, any other business tool, any other productivity tool out there. It's all about finding the use for it in your business, for your brand, for your style. And then the rest may not be an asset to you. And it's okay for you to kind of leave some of this tech on the table as opposed to feeling like every piece of tech, every single idea, I have to try, I have to test out. All right. So, first thing I just want to do as we're level setting, as people are joining and as people are jumping in today's session, I would love for you to jump into the comments, whether you're looking at this as a live broadcast or you're looking at this in our Zoom session, and give me on a scale of, let's use 1 to 10. How comfortable are you with AI? And when I say comfortable, meaning you've used it before, you've played around with it, or you're just getting started kind of thing. So on a scale of 1 to 10, just give me a sense of, what your comfort level is so I can gauge kind of in our audience today how deep we want to go, as well as making sure that you walk away with some good tools and tips. Oh, I see some twos, I see a four, I see a one. Okay, so we're more in those beginning stages. So that's really good to know. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing, I think, because just like any tool that you use, sometimes it's nice in these beginning stages to discover what you can do because, it can maybe open a door for you in your business. Maybe it can reduce a headache or solve a problem for you in your business. And I feel like sometimes when these tools are in these beginning stages of how we want to use it, you can have some of those bigger wins. So I'm hoping today is going to produce that for you. So I'm just going to share my slides really quick. I want to go through these slides to just give you a foundation, give you an understanding of what we're using it for, how we're using AI, and so forth. But I will also do some screen sharing a little bit later so that we can really dive into how to use these tools. All right. So every webinar Wednesday, really what we want to do is just give you that insight. So if this is your first time joining us for webinar Wednesday, or it's been a while since I've seen you, welcome back. Today, we're definitely going to be focusing on that balance of AI, but also thinking about AI from the standpoint of not losing that authenticity. AI has really kind of changed the game in the way that we can write, the way that we can consume content, and the way that we can really digest a lot of topics and have access to a lot of information in the world. And the challenge is you still have to bring that into your business and make sure it's still in your voice. You have to make sure that it still makes sense for your brand. And you're not publishing things that sound like a computer has written it. We've all been to sites where you're like, this sounds like a computer wrote it. And what you don't want to do is have that same experience. So, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can use it. I'm also going to expand beyond just writing. I think a lot of times when people think about AI, they think about that, getting that content going. But I also want to show you some other uses that maybe have elements of writing to it, but they're more of the use case of how we're using it in our business and how it may be something that you can use as well. Now, for interviews, the first time you're joining us, I am Stephanie Red Cross West. I love, love, love talking about marketing, love, love, love talking about business growth. We've been doing this for a lot of years now. I just got a note from LinkedIn and it gave me a little happy birthday message, or I shouldn't say happy anniversary message for my business. And it reminded me all the years that we've been doing this. So it's such an honor. It's so exciting to be able to do this. And I'm really grateful that you took some time out of your day to join me. So when you think about AI, when you're thinking about integrating it in any way, one thing I want to do is kind of level set our discussion. I don't believe AI is a replacement for something you do. I really believe it's an enhancement. Now, the number one place that I think AI really can help you is from a productivity standpoint. When you're trying to do things that you do on an everyday basis and do them fast and do them quickly, I find that AI can step in and help you do them. When you're answering very similar or common questions, maybe, for example, from a customer service standpoint, people have very basic questions. Or if you're doing quick follow ups, you're following up with 10 clients, following up with 10 people, and you need to send out a series of emails. They're really short emails. They're just, hey, how you doing? Wanted to check in. Hey, I was wondering, have you made any progress? Hey, I was wondering how things are going. All of those types of emails, you can do those kind of in a bulk setting and use AI to help you do that. I have found in the past that when I want to do outreach, when I want to reach out to people, I kind of sit at the screen and stare. I'm like, oh, what should I say in this email? Because they're very similar outreach emails. And when I try to get all creative and come up with new ways to kind of say something similar, when I'm really just kind of saying how things are going, I'll either get through three of those 10 emails or I'll get through half of them and then I just come back to it later. What I found is AI has helped me get through them faster. It's helped me do that basic language, get that started. And then on top of it, I can add the specifics that I want to send in that message. And we'll do an example today so you can see what I mean. The other thing I love for AI is framework. When you're trying to build a plan, when you're trying to put together a template, when you're really trying to come up with a standard approach for something, AI can help you build that out. So if you are writing a book, AI can be great for helping you build your table of contents. And it's just a tool to help you organize what do you want to write. We recently did a social media challenge and we taught people how to use AI to come up with a social media plan. Now, am I recommending that you're going to use AI to write all your posts, to write all the titles, all the content, all the captions? Absolutely not. You can use AI for ideas, and we'll talk about that in the next item. But AI is not your editor in a sense. AI is not a replacement for you writing your own content. What AI is helping you do is kind of create that framework for when and how and topics. What's a good kind of approach and what topics and what information can flow together. And I'll show you some examples of that today. The other thing I love to use AI for is brainstorming. To me, it's very easy to get stuck, to feel like you have writer's block. And when you're trying to write something or write a perspective on something, sometimes you don't know where to start on a topic. Or what can happen is you have an idea, but you want to expand upon it. And AI can take what you write, say you can write 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then it will take it and expand the idea. It will take it and even sometimes condense an idea. It can take a article maybe you want to be reading or information that you're going to be reading and say it's really, 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 really long. And this kind of leads into the next one. It can also summarize it so that you can get a general gist of what the article, what that information is about before you dive into it in detail. Now, do I recommend you just use the summary as the basics of what that article is about? Not really, because you got to make sure you know the details before you're quoting anything. But when you're trying to research, trying to find resources for content, trying to find resources or even stats or information to support your writing, support your information, I find that AI is really great for that. Now, one small thing, AI does make up stuff. And when I say it makes up stuff, not all AI is created equally. A lot of us have heard about ChatGPT. A lot of us know about some of the big players, but most of our software these days are getting an AI version, and not everyone's AI version is great. Sometimes that AI will kind of fudge it a little bit, or it'll kind of put some information together that's really not meant to go together. So I bring that up, and this is why it's so important that you're not just copying and pasting. It's why it's so important you're not just grabbing content and putting it out there, is because you have to verify the information, especially when you're pulling in stats, especially when you're doing research. Always go to the original content creator, always go to the original source and verify it, because you'll be surprised sometimes that AI kind of brings things together and it looks like it's a direct quote or it looks like it's a direct link to information. And it's not. I've even had a client use AI and it dropped like a reference link in there. And when the client clicked on that reference link, the page didn't exist. So I don't want to freak you out. I don't want you to be like, oh my goodness, I can't trust AI. That's not the case. Remember, we're not trying to let AI do it all. What we're trying to do is have AI enhance, not replace that human touch. All right. So, for a lot of people, when they're saying, well, where should I get started with AI? What tools should I use? Should I just jump into ChatGPT? Or some people are like, I don't even understand ChatGPT. So, I stayed away from AI because I don't even know what it is, how to use it. And, it just kind of feels like it's hard to know where to jump in, right? So, what I tell most people is look at the tools that you're already using. Look at the software that you're currently using for your business, because often most software is now starting to add AI to their current solution. Now, in some cases, they're adding it free, meaning you're already using it for one purpose and they've added some enhancements with AI to that software. In other examples, they'll add it as an add-on. So if you own the software, they will add an AI component to it that you pay for monthly. And then other times, you're going to have a problem that you're trying to solve, and therefore you're going to purchase software to solve those problems. So I put 3 examples here on the page just to give you a sense of how most software already has it baked in. You just may have to spend a little bit of time either looking for it, or you might even do something as simple as type in the software that you use and just say Grammarly AI, Slack AI. So whatever software you're using, type in that software AI. And often they'll have a page, they'll send you somewhere to explain any AI features they have. That's where I recommend you start. Because if you already know that software, if you already have a benefit from using that software, it's much easier to jump into AI because it's not a complete foreign space for you. It doesn't feel like I have to understand what it is, how to use it. It can become just a enhancement like we talked about before. Now, I do want you to be careful because for a lot of people, when they're thinking about going this AI route, it can become expensive because now you're buying new software to do this and to do that. And that's another reason why I want to look at what you're already paying for. We're going to talk today about Canva. Canva I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite platforms, and we use it for design. But Canva has slowly added more and more and more AI features. And those AI features are already in the paid plan. So since we are already using the paid plan, and there's reasons why we upgraded to the paid plan years ago, when they added AI, it wasn't an additional expense for us. It wasn't something else we had to pay for. And therefore, we could slowly use it and integrate it. We could slowly test different features and different things to see if the AI that was available to us worked. And that's what I recommend you do. I use Grammarly all the time because I am a typo queen. I'm always putting typos and stuff. So I've always used Grammarly. Now, Grammarly is one of those interesting things where you could argue, like, was Grammarly AI all the time or all, always versus where it is today? Because remember, most of us had like spell check. We've had spell check for years and years and years. Then Grammarly came out and they were kind of like tweaking the grammar. And when I first used Grammarly, there were small tweaks, there were small changes. But now Grammarly has really supersized things and added a whole nother level of AI to it. So not only can I take content that I've written and they can help me enhance it once again, or Grammarly has a function similar to ChatGPT where you can say, hey, create a project plan for me. Hey, create an outline for me. Hey, organize a blog post for me. And what's great about it is I use Grammarly almost every single day. So if I'm trying to transition into using AI, instead of going to ChatGPT and trying to figure it out, I can use Grammarly because it's a friendly playground for me. So I want you to do the same. I want you to look and see if you have that option. Plus, especially if it's a free option, I would recommend playing around with it, recommend getting comfortable with it. Because once you get comfortable and get that first stage kind of experience and interaction with it, it'd be much easier to make a decision to say, okay, now I want to invest in a paid platform. Or now I'm ready to go into a chat GBT because I got a feel for and it doesn't feel as intimidating. Okay. All right. The other thing I want you to take away from today is content creation. There's a little bit of a writing trap when it comes to AI. And I say it this way because writing and content creation is a big part of the marketing we have to do for our businesses. And for a lot of people, this is the piece that we kind of dread. We kind of feel like, ugh, I got to write more content. I got to do this. I got to do that. We just feel, this just isn't your favorite part of the job. And for some of you, you're like, this isn't the reason I started my business. So I was writing all the time. This is just a part of what I have to do. Now, I know some of you out there are writers, and for some of you, you're going to approach it a little bit differently. But I bring this up because for many of us who get tired, who get bogged down from content that we have to create, for many of us who feel like we're already overworked, what can happen is you can fall into this trap of thinking that AI can just write it all for you, that AI can do a whole blog post for you, that AI can write a whole book for you, and then you can send that to press, that AI can really kind of do it all. And yes, AI has amazing capabilities. And yes, technically, there's software out there that you give it a couple of concepts and a couple of pieces of information, it will create a book for you. But I don't recommend that's the route you go. I don't feel like you're going to get the best use of it. And also, I don't feel like your content is going to be not only elevated enough, meaning strong enough, because sometimes that content, when it's being mashed together from an AI standpoint, it lacks a little bit of flow. But the biggest thing that I'm concerned about is I don't want you to put content out there that feels repetitive, that feels like anyone could have written it. Remember, this is your business, this is your brand. So you want to make sure that the content that you create represents your business and brand. And therefore, that means using AI in a very different way, using AI as a piece of the puzzle in the process, as opposed to the whole solution. So I bring that up as a reminder. And I know for some people, they may be like, yeah, I know technically I shouldn't be doing it, but I do it anyway. So if you've been doing it anyway, if you've been getting tired and being like, I'm just going to copy and paste this thing from AI and put it out there, try not to do that. Just curb a little bit of that for me, because in the long run, it can really reduce the quality of what you put out there, what people expect from you. And remember, you want genuine people to follow you. We're not just trying to beat the algorithms out there. What you really want is you want people to come to you and say, I come to Stephanie because I want to hear Stephanie's perspective versus coming to Jill. That idea that there's a difference between two people who are even talking about similar content because of the style, their experiences, their perspective, their approach. All of that can create a different follower base and different content. And you want to make sure that AI allows you to have you shine through. So, what I really love to do when I'm thinking about writing is using AI to create drafts for me, create a first version of something, or create a baseline for me. So, therefore, if I'm having that writer block moment, what happens is it's giving me a place to start from, and then I rewrite. Then I write that information and write that content over. And I'll show you even an example where we use it as a baseline when we do transcripts and summaries and so forth. The other thing I love to use AI for is kind of refining or tightening up text or a point or something I'm making. And sometimes that refinement is me adding more to the puzzle. Sometimes I want to add more emotion. So sometimes I'll ask AI to add more enthusiasm into the voice of what I'm writing. I'll ask AI to, give it more of a personal perspective as opposed to a more professional or authoritative perspective. And what I'm doing is I'm never asking AI to rewrite it and then just copying and pasting it. I'm looking at the comparison between the changes it made and what I originally had, so I can get a sense of how I can move in that direction, how I can mold my text to that new approach. And then the other thing I love to use it for writing is a plan, creating a process, creating, like we talked about social media. If we're trying to create a 14-day content plan about A, B, and C subject, then letting it come out and say, hey, these are some of the subjects. Even if it gives me 14 subjects, it's highly unlikely I'm going to take those 14 subjects, do them exactly the way that they gave them to me, ask them for descriptions, ask them for titles, ask them for thumbnail titles or thumbnail images. I'm never going to use AI for the whole process. I'm just going to use it to help me get my plan together and then move it forward. So please, 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 never 100%. And I say 100%. And just for a couple of folks out there that are like, what about 80%? What about 70%? That's still too high. You don't want to just copy it all. You want to use that as your foundation and then move from there. All right. Any questions so far about the approach, the style, and the way about AI or anything we've talked about so far? I'm just going to let those maybe questions pile up, and I'm going to go to the next slide. So what I want to do next is I've kind of hopefully given you a foundation. But I find sometimes when we do these presentations, I always want to make it clear that it's not just what you should be doing, it's how you do it. It's how it can happen. And I thought one of the easiest ways for me to do that is to show you examples, show you things that we do, like what's happening in my business around AI and how we're enhancing it so that this feels more like realistic, feels like something that you could use. And one of my favorite ways to use AI in our business is around video summaries. Now, when I say video summaries, maybe it sounds too generic or general, but when I'm talking about video summaries, what I'm talking about is coming up with, taking a video and being able to summarize the key points of it, taking a video and being able to transcribe all of that content, but not just transcribe it so I have pages and pages to read, but turn it into an action plan and then link that action plan to time in that video. So if I want to go back to it or I want to reference it, I can. So I'm showing you an example on the left-hand side where it's an action plan. This is from my webinar that I did, I think 2 months ago. All I did is upload that video in there, and then I asked it for a summary. I'm going to show you, try to show it to you live today. It does take a few minutes, but I'm going to try to show you live today how it does it. But what I love about this is if I'm going to do show notes for a webinar I've done, if I want to send somebody quick notes and say, hey, here's the link to the webinar, but these are some of the key points, instead of me like remembering what I said or having to go back through the video and like jump through it or going through my slides and trying to write it, I can use this as a starting point. And as a starting point, now I can say, hey, at these places, we talked about these things. I can add some additional content or redefine some of these bullet points. And now someone has a little bit of a summary of a video I'm going to send to them. Now, why does that matter? My webinar video is about an hour long. Not everybody wants to jump into an hour-long video if they're not ready or they don't know what it's about. But if I can give them the timestamps, they're more likely to jump into it. So if you do any training, if you do any classes, if you do any video content and you want to be able to share it with people and give them a quick summary of notes from that content, using AI to help you do that is a great time saver. Because instead of you kind of remembering what you did and remembering what you said, and maybe it sounds weird to say remembering what you said, but you know, I'll do a webinar 2 months ago. And for me to remember what I said in that webinar 2 months ago is a lot. Now, remembering what I said in today's webinar, an hour after it or tomorrow is not hard to do. But if you bumped into me a month from now, if you sent me a note and said, "Hey, Steph, I remember you did that AI webinar. Could you send me the link?" I would love to send you notes and say from that webinar, "Hey, here's some quick things." And that's where I find it's very, very helpful to be able to create these summaries. All right. The other way I use this is I use this for a lot of meetings. I'm in a ton of Zoom sessions, and I know a lot of you are in a ton of Zoom sessions. I tend to be in a lot of them with clients. A lot of times I'm in them with people where we're discussing topics. And because of the length of a lot of these meetings that I'm in, it's hard for me to take notes because I'm talking most of the time. I'm presenting most of the time, or I'm in the moment. I loved being in the moment and kind of brainstorming with a client. But what I want to do is send them meeting notes afterwards. I want to send them details about the session. What were some of the highlights? What's their action plan? And so forth. And being able to have AI run through that meeting and give me a quick summary gives me a starting point. Now, remember, never copy and paste directly from AI, because I'll even show it to you today. When it transcribes and grabs that information, sometimes it says the same thing like 4 times. The other reason you don't want to do that is it doesn't have like the natural human flow at times. So you're going to have to rewrite it. So when we do meeting notes, we always rewrite what we get from AI. But it's much easier to have a starting point, to have that draft, like I mentioned, so that we can go through it and actually send meeting notes to people that are very detailed, that have even timestamps in them at times, and have an action item list so that people can have a meeting with me and it feel very productive. So for anyone out there who's a coach, who's a trainer, instructor, anyone out there that does any of those types of professions, I really think AI is going to be a great tool. The software that we use is called, I think it's Nota. And pronunciation, I think it's Nota. And I absolutely love this one. There's a ton of other tools out there. This is the one that I use, and we use it for a very specific reason because they do that summary, not just the transcription. So if you need something like that, I'd highly recommend you check them out. All right, let's talk about the other way I use it. I love it for quick email responses. Now, I'm a person that gets a ton of emails in a day. And when I say a ton of emails, some of them are like real emails that I need to read, and some of them are just requests or people asking, "Can I do this? Do you want to do that?" I even get those emails where people are like, that are sales emails and all these other items. Now, there's a lot of emails that I can comb through and just delete, but there are emails that I want to respond to and I want to respond quickly. And what I find is because I'm not the writer, meaning I'm not the person that it just flows from me. Sometimes I can get stumped and I'll be like, "Oh, I'll respond to that later." Also, it's not even just my writing kind of capabilities or my writing flow. It's also my brain. And I don't know if this happens to many of you out there, but for me, I'm jumping from so many things, from like I'm looking in Slack and I'm helping with my team with something, then I'm in Canva, then I'm working on a presentation, or even like today, I do a webinar, then I go meet with a client. And my brain is running through so many different topics and so many things at once that writing almost feels like a slowdown for me. Like writing kind of isn't quick and fast, at least in my flow. And therefore, I almost feel like I delay emails because, it's just not, it doesn't have that quick rhythm that I get in other things. And because of that, it tends to break my concentration. It breaks my ability to move. But what I found is by using AI to enhance my emails, I'm able to respond to things quickly. So I can write an email quickly. Remember, it's not all AI written, it's just the start of it. I can reply to emails very quickly, and I can decline emails. Now, I use decline because decline sounds like, why do you need that many declines? But you'll be surprised people who send us emails all the time talking about how they want to collaborate or they want to work on a project together. And what happens is I don't want to be rude and not respond. Maybe that's my issue by not just letting it go. But I'd rather send them a message and say, no, thanks, I'm not interested, or no, thanks, the timing's not right, or this really isn't a project that works for us. Because at the end of the day, they did take the time to send me a real email, as long as it looks like a real email and doesn't look like an email that they used AI to rate. I normally want to respond. And what you can see here on the right-hand side of the page, I know it's a little faint, so I'll show you a real life one so you can see it. What happens is it gives you little AI buttons there. And at the bottom, you'll see one that says interested, not interested, thanks. And to me, those are common responses that I have that if AI can get that started for me, it's great. And what AI will do in the software that I use, if someone writes me an email that says, we're interested in you being a part of our podcast series, blah, 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 it will write the no thanks based on what the person said. It'll say, well, I really appreciate that you asked me to be a part of your podcast series. At this point, we'll have, I won't be able to do it. And, I wish you all the best, or I won't be able to do it. Maybe we can reconnect another time. AI will take that jump and do that work for me, which I find is really great and really helpful. Once again, needs some Stephanie touch in there before I hit send. But being able to get started, get through those emails allows me to get focused. It allows me to be able to jump from email to presentation and all these things I want to be able to do in the day and make it work. There's also some great features in here where not only can you write a draft and it'll add it, it'll expand an email, it'll shorten an email, it can summarize emails that people send to you and so forth. And once again, this is an email client I use. Now, when I say email client, some of you may be like, I don't know what that is. And what I mean by email client is when you read your email, you can go to a web browser and read it, right? So if you have a Gmail account, let's say, for example, you can go directly into Gmail, you're on the browser, you're doing all your emails. Personally, I like to use a third-party tool to help me manage my emails because I have a lot of email accounts and I don't like the send as feature. So I want to be able to look at each and every email account that I have and be able to respond from them. Plus, I have email accounts from my clients. I have email accounts from my volunteer work. So a lot of these emails are just all over the place. And having that information set up and in the system and have my email organized is really helpful. So what I tend to use is use a third-party tool to look at my emails, to organize my emails. I love those clients. I use it on my cell phone. I use it on my desktop. I use my tablet, same one. Spark is the software that I use. Now, I've been using Spark for years because Spark has other features for me. It teaches me it gives me features like I can block emails. So say, for example, I'm getting spammed to death. I can block it and it'll just go into a folder and all those emails that ever come in just go to a folder and never come into my inbox. It has a couple other features around like how folders work and so forth. So I can organize my information and send things into folders. Plus it has this thing like pinning post. And when I work on emails, sometimes like crazy late at night, I don't want them all to go out late at night. I want them to go out like in the morning. I can schedule them to send later. So it has all these great features. But once again, I use this for years. I can't even remember how many years I've been using it. So when they came up with AI, it was just AI on top of what I was already using. It's software I'm already paying for. And what I ended up doing is gently jumping into it. Because at first I was like, I can't have AI write my emails. I was like, that's crazy. And then what I found is I found a way for it to work for me. And that's the thing I want you to be able to do as well. All right. Next example I want to show you is good old ChatGPT. Now, when you're trying to generate content ideas, when you're trying to find ways to move forward, whether it's a social media plan, like we've talked about before, whether you're curing kind of writer's block, I do like to use ChatGPT. I actually have to give a shout out to Megan on our team. She has really gotten me into ChatGPT and really kind of helped me spread my wings and use it more and more and more. So I hope, what I'm sharing with you today is me kind of passing on that experience that she's given to me to help me jump into the platform and use it. Now, at first, I really didn't use it a lot. I used all my other platforms. Canva has something similar for creating content, for writing content, writing headlines, and I just used my Canva feature for a while. But now I've started to use this platform, and one of my favorite things to do is to use it for research and ideas. Now, I did an example here. And it's teeny, teeny tiny. I'm not expecting you to read it. I'm just using it as a reference. But we're doing a podcast, right? We're working on podcasts about imposter syndrome. And as I'm working on this podcast and we're building out this podcast, a lot of times I need to do research on ideas because, what I know about the topic and my experience is a part of the podcast. But I also want to make sure that I'm well versed in, who are some of the experts in the space? What books have they written? What have they talked about? And if I have time, maybe I'll pick up one of those books or maybe check out their YouTube or just get a sense of what other experts are saying about it. Because I do think when I'm doing teaching, when I'm doing training, I do like to reference people who are more experts in the field than necessarily I am. What I'm really trying to give to people is how I interpret or take that expertise and apply it to my business, apply it to my life, and help me with it. So when I'm doing research, as an example here, I typed into ChatGPT, who are the experts on imposter syndrome? Very simple question. And what it does is it brings back some basic language like experts are people who are, psychiatrists, psychologists, mental health experts, blah, 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 blah. That's not really what I was looking for. But then what it proceeds to do is give me names and it gives me individual names of people. It talks about the books that they've written and the concepts that they've written about. So if I'm trying to do research and I'm trying to get that deeper understanding, now I have a name, I have a person to look up. Now, why is this different than doing like a Google search and Googling it? When I Google what are experts in imposter syndrome in Google, what's going to pop up is who has better SEO. What's going to pop up are all different mixes. Sometimes I'm going to get an expert, sometimes I'm going to get a book, sometimes I'm going to get a website that has an article about expertise in imposter syndrome. So, what tends to happen when you Google is you get this like pot of stuff. You kind of get like a boot, a hook, a flower, a tablecloth, and you're like, I know these things have a connection to them, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. And what I find is using a tool like ChatGPT, you can give it a specific question and it will pull that information together. Now, are these the only experts? Definitely not. Are these the only experts I should look at? Absolutely not. I have to go beyond and I have to push because ChatGPT or any tool that you're using, it's going to be based on their information and what they have readily available. So I always want you to validate information. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these names, look them up, look at that information. So if you're looking for research, looking for inspiration, if you're looking for, I've done this before where I take a paragraph and like I mentioned before, I'll drop it into ChatGPT and say, add a little bit more inspiration to this, make this more, motivational, and then it'll shoot back that text to me. And that's what I find works really well. And then the last example I want to show you before we jump into, some web browser stuff is Canva. Love, love, love Canva. And to me, a lot of the features that Canva offers these days, I don't even think of them as AI anymore. And then when I went back, I was like, yeah, that is actually AI. Because I think of it like the original way. But removing backgrounds from images, this is something that we all need, all of us use. And I don't know if you remember back in the day, you used to have to like outline a person and, almost like clean up all the things around them. Canva does this in like 5 seconds. So being able to use some of these tools, I think is great. Now, Canva also will create images for you. Sometimes those images look a little creepy, but we found it works really well, especially for my instructors out there. When you need a photo of beats, when you need a photo of like 2 items or something like that that needs to go into a flyer, it needs to go into a blog post, and you need 2 things that you don't naturally see together, or often will have like an animal product in it. I find Canva does a really great job of you typing in what you need, and then AI will create that photo and put those items in the photo. It's a little bit weird the first couple of times that happens, but I definitely find it is something that can really, really help. And you can enhance photos. You can do a lot of the editing that used to be done more manually by a trained eye. You can give something a quick pop. You can have something that gets expanded when a photo isn't big enough. It'll kind of like blur out the background a little bit and make it a little bit bigger. Now, is this a substitute for a designer? Absolutely not. It is not a substitute for a designer who can do an amazing job for these things. But for many of you, you're creating quick social media posts. You're creating kind of content for a quick and specific purpose. And instead of you spending hours on trying to get it perfect, instead of you spending hours on trying to find the photo that has these 3 items in it, I'd rather use AI to get you there and to see if that solution can satisfy what you need. Because some of this content and some of the things that we're creating, they're short lived. They're not things that we're creating forever. They're not our logos or, you know what I mean, content that is really so representative of our brand. It's just you, hey, I got an article and I forgot to take a photo in the recipe of these 2 ingredients or these 3 items together. And I got 5 photos that are great, but I'm missing one. Let AI help you. And this is what I mean when I say AI can help you do things in your business and make it easier and better, as opposed to thinking of AI as just a pure writing tool. All right. So that's what I got so far. All right. I want to jump into my browser. So I'm going to stop sharing just for a quick minute. And I want to show you some of the tools live. I want to show you what they look like. All right. I'm only going to spend a few minutes on this. I don't want to keep you guys longer than the top of the hour, but I always think it's helpful when you can see kind of like on my screen how some of these things work. All right. So the first one we're going to start with is email. I'm going to show you what it looks like if you were using AI for email. Now, if you just let me know if you're not able to see my screen, give me 1 minute. I'm just trying to make sure we got the little buttons going here correctly. And I am going to show you my email. All right. Hopefully you guys can see it. All right. So if you're looking at my email, this is the email client I use. The email client, like I was saying, it allows me to have my inbox. I can see pin posts, send posts. I even have a way to set aside, all the standard features that you have, but I use this as my third-party tool. This is where the AI is. So here I can write an email and generate. I can do a standard email like I was inviting people, as well as there's some other features in here. So let's get started. All right. I'm going to type something in, but if anybody wants me to type in something as a standard email, drop it in the chat or just drop it in the chat or in the comments, and I'll type it in here and see what we get. But if you're just using something basic, like say I wanted to do those emails where I'm following up with people. So, hi, we haven't talked in a while. I hope all is going well. Have you had a chance to work on the project plan that we discussed last week? Okay. Now, this is just me getting this started. This is just me putting something in here. I probably would add a little bit more if I was creating one, but to show you guys live, I thought I'd start with something simple. All right. So if I type that in, I hit the button, it's generating, it's trying to do something, right? So what it's going to do is take what I wrote and then it's going to add to it. Now, normally when I get my first one back, it's not too long. It's just an option. Now, remember, I'm using this because I'm writing a lot of update emails. And so that I can get that flow, I'm using it to get started. So here's an example. It says, quick check-in regarding our conversation from last week. Have you had an opportunity to dive into the project plan? It'd be great to align the progress and discuss any potential roadblocks you might have encountered. Look forward to your update. What do you think? Isn't it kind of interesting how I type that in and this is what it kicks back? Let me know in the comments. The other thing I want to show you is you can take something like this and say, okay, I want to expand it. I want it longer. I want it to have more, girth to it. So I hit expand and it says, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to take a moment to follow up with you regarding the project plan we discussed in our conversation last week. As you move forward in this project, it would be incredibly helpful to have an update on any progress you've made and any roadblocks that you may be encountering. With that in mind, I would greatly appreciate an update on the information you can provide. Thanks in advance for your time and your effort, blah, 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 blah. All right. I like how it expanded it, but for me, it got a little too formal. It got a little too, it doesn't sound like me. So, what I also like about this is it can allow you to change the tone. So I can say, yeah, I wanted to be a little bit friendlier. And they changes it again. So hope you're doing great. Just wanted to check in with you on the project plan we talked about the other day. I really appreciate any information, any updates on the progress you've made, and any changes that any challenges you've come across. It'd be great to help as we move forward. So this is what I mean by a draft. Am I going to send this as is? Absolutely not. This is where I'm going to start as a draft, and then I'm going to add in here some bullet points about what we talked about. I'm going to add some bullet points on what about the details about the project plan that we discussed. I'm going to maybe add in here questions that I have, but this is going to help me get this email going and then add to it. And what I really like about this is this can be really helpful. This can give you kind of a starting point for how you build out your emails. Oh, yeah. There's a question about what am I using? The software I'm using is called Spark. Spark is what I use for my email client. Depending on what you use, if you use an Apple, there's other email clients out there. A lot of them have AI. So you can definitely use Spark too. I'll show you on a browser in a few minutes how you can get there as well. But I would look into whatever you're using for AI and see, whatever you're using for email and see if it has an AI enhancement. Because I'm seeing even more and more email marketing tools are starting to add AI, but I'm just showing you as an example live so you can see how it works. All right. Perfect. Let's see if there's any other questions. Love the example. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Let me use this example really quick. All right. I'm going to, let's just delete this really quick. We're going to generate a new draft, put in the example. So good to see you, Vasanta. All right, thanks for reaching out. We're here to provide you with all the information you need to make an informed decision. If there are any additional details that you're curious about or specific aspects you'd like to explore, please let me know, and we'll be ready to assist you with any further inquiries you may have. So, what do you think? Pretty decent? Now, remember, I said this isn't exactly what you're going to send, but this helps you go from one sentence to a few sentences that rounds out the topic. And for me personally, I find this is really helpful for me to get started. It's really helpful for me when I have to do a lot of repetitive outreach messages to people, and it helps me refine them and change them and make them better. All right. So that's email. That's an example of it. And like I said, this isn't necessarily that you have to use it here. You could do the same thing. And actually, maybe we'll do that. I'll grab this and stick it into ChatGPT as an example, because AI is AI. Each piece of AI does things very similar. It's just that I'm showing you that you can use it in email. You can use it in ChatGPT. You can use it in Canva. You can use it in all these different platforms. So I don't want you to feel like you have to go one place to be able to leverage AI. AI has really a on-ramp, let's say, in a lot of different ways and a lot of different applications. And what I wanted to do today is show you what those look like. All right. So now we're going to jump over to our browser. All right. When I jump over to the browser, I'm going to show a couple of these other tools that I talked about in the slides. We have Canva here that I'm going to show you as an example. We have, looks like someone might have signed in while I was out. So I'm just going to sign in again. I'm going to show you Nota that we use and how we set this up. I'm going to show you ChatGPT. Spark is the software that I had mentioned. It's a Spark mail app. And you can see here all the things that I had shown you before. So this is just more of a reference. And then I was going to mention Grammarly. I don't know if anyone uses Grammarly out there, but Grammarly has some great features. So if you're looking at using AI, you can drop text in here just like you've always done. And I'll just grab the example that was provided to me. and drop that in here. But what you can also do is you can use the AI portion. Now, there's probably an argument between, you know, what's really AI and what's not AI these days when it comes to things like Grammarly. And we won't get too much into that discussion, but see how Grammarly is just giving me the basics here. It's just saying, okay, you forgot your question mark. Okay, this is good. This is done well. There's no major edit. But what you're trying to do when you're using something like ChatGPT is you're trying to go in here and say, please help me write an email to a client about, let's say, a recent consultation. Here's, whoops. Now, this is what I love about ChatGPT is you can kind of just write it in any old way. You don't have to know exactly how to do it. Just type it in and see what it does. So we used a totally different platform to do this before, right? We used email to do it before. Now we're using ChatGPT to do the exact same thing. So this is my example to let you know that you can use any of these tools. They're all kind of designed to do the same thing. That's why it's so important to know how you want to use it. That's why it's so important to know what you're trying to get out of it. Because once you understand what you're going to get out of it and what you're trying to enhance, then you can go to your tool of choice. And that's why you can often go through a tool that you're already using. But as you can see here, following up on a recent consultation, says, hope this email finds you well. Thank you for reaching out regarding a conversation we had recently. It was a pleasure discussing it with you. I wanted to follow up with you to see if you require any further information based on our discussion. So I won't read the whole thing because you guys can see it here on the page, but you can see how it took one sentence, it took one question, and then it turned it into an email. Once again, don't copy and paste this as is. Please, please, please use this as a baseline. The other thing I like to use AI for is to generate summaries. So this is a video that I uploaded earlier today, just so I could show this to you live. This video is an hour long. This is a webinar that I did last time, Refresh the Stale. It's great. We can read this transcript, but it's really long. And say, for example, like the webinar today, you want to go back to it, or you want me to send you a quick summary. For me to do this might take me hours. But if I use software like this, and what I love about this software, it's a little bit unique from other software, is it can give you summaries. So it can give you a summary, chapter, or action. It can take an interview that you've done and it'll summarize what the interview is about. It'll pull out the question and answer section or the questions you asked, and then any action items. I've never really used the sales pitch piece. I don't find that it really helps me that much. So I'm going to click general and I'm going to let it do a little bit of work in the background while I show you another tool so you can see how this can happen in real time and see what it actually looks like. All right. So while that's working in the background, I'm going to jump to Canva. I love Canva. Canva has crazy advanced tools, and it also has very basic AI tools. All right. Ooh, I got another question in here. I'm going to try to do an image for you. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking at your questionnaire. I wanted a picture of seniors happily eating beans for this PowerPoint presentation, and then it let me choose a different nationality. Yes, 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 yes. All right. We will try to do that here today, but let me explain it. So most of your tools that do images are going to have a piece of AI. I love Canva because Canva is part of a platform I'm already using, like I mentioned before, and it has a whole studio. So if you have the paid platform and you come into Canva, you'll see the Magic Studio over here. And if you click on that, it'll show you all the different options. This is a great way to get familiar with what's available. The key ones that we tend to use, or that I find work the best, are a lot of the editing features. Being able to expand a background, remove a background is a very popular one. And then the comment that we have in there is about creating an image. You can actually type in the image that you want to create, and then it will try to create it for you. Now, some of those images look a little wonky sometimes, and some of those images work really great. It's something for you to play with. But that's a great way to help you with AI. That's the example I gave earlier, where you're trying to do a blog post and you need a picture of like beets and turnips and chickpeas in a photo. And what it will try to do is add those things for you. All right. So I just wanted to show you how you get into it. You can click on any of these options and it'll take you into that page. So if you're trying to do text to images, and I'm going to try to use what you wrote in here. I don't know. I'm just going to try it and see what happens. I'm just going to type in, I want a picture of seniors happily eating beans. And we'll just say generate. Let's see what happens. All right. While that's generating and thinking and talking, I'm going to come back over here. All right. This is where I had that video, right? Hour-long video. What it does is it creates a whole summary of the transcript. It says the meeting transcript is a webinar focused on revitalizing marketing strategies for vegan businesses. The presenter, Stephanie Red Cross West, emphasizes the importance of regularly refreshing marketing approaches to maintain effectiveness and engagement. And then it goes through the process of listing out some of the key points. Now, AI does repeat. So some of these key points you will see down here. But what I find I love about this is see how it breaks down the chapters. So it says the time, what topic, the time, what topic I talked about, the time, and what topic. So if we want to send the summary to someone, I have a starting place for it. If I want to, let's say, for example, we want to turn this into a reel, we might clip right here, and or I can say to my videographer, hey, at 11 minutes and 57 seconds, I talk about this. Can you grab a clip for our reel? And what's the benefit of this is I don't have to pay my editor to watch a whole hour video to figure out what to clip or what to turn in. I can actually say, grab this timestamp, grab this timestamp, grab this information. And this is just a great list of content that I've created that can turn into something else. So if I ever want to grab this as a clip and add it to a blog post, I can come in here and say, okay, here's the section where I talked about this. This is where I'm going to take this and expand upon it in a blog post. And then I'm going to embed the video section of this as well. So I think this is very impressive that it can bring these summaries in, it can bring this information in, and it can help you summarize your own information. I find I've done courses like a year ago, 2 years ago, and I want to update the course. I want to make it better, but I don't have time to watch like 10 of my own videos. But if I drop them in here and get a transcript and get a summary, I can determine which videos to reuse, which videos to recreate, and which videos would help me. All right, let's go back over here and see the magic. Wow. As you can see here, we have video options now. Photo options. And what I love about what you can do with AI, it's really even to the point here, you can mix it up. You can ask them to add different nationalities. You can ask them to add different age groups of people. And these photos now become a unique look at what you were trying to create, what you're trying to put into it. So what do you think? Are you impressed a little bit with AI? Is AI doing a little bit more than you realized it could do for you? What does everyone think? Just let me know in the comments. Oh, yeah. If you just want cooked beans, we could do that as well. We could just have beans. Let's do that as well. It just takes a minute. That's the only reason why sometimes I do this. But you can say, need a photo of, and this is the other thing I would say, if you want cooked beans, you can even say the beans you want. So say you want pinto, chickpea, what other beans? Lentils. I need another bean. Edamame. And then generate it. Oh, black beans. Yes, one of my favorites. Sorry about that. But this is what you can do. This is how you can use AI. And I find this can be, now this is what I don't like. See how it's got a little egg on the top? It drives me crazy. So what I would end up doing is I would say with no egg, with no animal products, and you can start to now get a photo. We just don't have time. I've looked at the time. So I just want to be kind of conscious of everyone's time here. But what I really love is how this is starting to bring together. Now, I mean, maybe you could make an argument that that's some vegan cream cheese or sour cream there. But what I like to do is I like to always go back and keep refining and refining until I get something, because I'm very sensitive to having photos that have, animal products and things like that in it. So, all right, I'm going to wrap up. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Sorry, I know I went over a little bit today, and often I'm trying to make these a little bit shorter. But I'm hoping it was helpful. I'm hoping it was helpful for me to just show you the software, show you how it works, show you how quickly the responses come back, and how it's a very forgiving platform. You can try one thing, try another thing. And what I really enjoy about AI is it can feel like a partner at time. So when you're thinking about expanding your marketing, when you're thinking about doing more research for content creation, when you're thinking about, how do I get through a bulk of activity or events or things that need to be done, look to AI, because AI can truly be that solution for you. Like I said, to enhance what you're doing, not replace and not replace individuals, but be a tool that helps you take your work to a whole new level and also increase your productivity. So, all right. Hope everyone enjoyed today's webinar. Thank you, thank you, thank you, as always, for joining me. And if you have any questions, just send me a follow-up email afterwards. Otherwise, I hope to see you in another one of our webinars. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.